Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Work at Home Rockstar Podcast. Very excited for today's episode. We've got a very unique business idea here today. He is an interview coach, and what he does is he helps career professionals to be successful in job interviews. Very excited to be rocking out today with Chris Delaney. Chris, are you ready to rock?
I'm ready to rock. And Tim, thanks for inviting me down. I'm really excited to be here today.
Right on, me too. Awesome. So we're always going to start off on a good note. So tell me a story of success in your business or your life that we can be inspired by.
Well, I'm a dyslexic loser. That's what I told myself when I was young, because I left school with no qualifications because I was dyslexic. So I struggled to read, I struggled to write. I also had a terrible list, so I couldn't even talk. Like the three fundamentals, talking, reading, and speaking, I just couldn't do. So I left school with no qualifications, and I thought, what am I going to do with my life? And I just ended up in dead-end, low-paid jobs. Tim, would you believe it that my first job, I got paid £1 an hour?
Wow.
£1. How crazy is that? That's before minimum wage. And I had this belief that I was a loser and I would never be successful. But I also had a passion that I always wanted to help people. That was my calling in life. So because I couldn't get paid to help people, I had no qualifications. I ended up volunteering with like youth groups and scout groups, taking disabled adults rock climbing and hiking. And I kind of learned that I had this natural ability to support, mentor, and encourage other people. And I started reading some books. I went back to school to get my English qualifications, and I read all these books about like life coaching and techniques to help these young people. Anyway, back in my job, I'm doing quite well. I'm on £2 or £3 an hour now, so I'm going up in the world, but still, it's a very poor wage working in manual handling warehouse jobs. But I get a great opportunity to learn how to drive a forklift truck. And because I'm dyslexic, one of the positive spins about being dyslexic is you're very good at learning by doing things. I'm a kinesthetic learner. So I got on that truck and I drove for the chicane, lifted up the pallet, dropped it down, reversed back out because I was the king of that truck. No one was better than me on that forklift truck. I was superb. But some of my colleagues were really struggling, could have seen this big machine and got really scared and got really anxious. And they was crashing into the pallets. They nearly ran over the instructor. They nearly crashed into the warehouse building. And the instructor said to me, Chris, you're going to pass your forklift truck test. And he turned around to my colleague and said, you're going to fail. This guy was not a motivational speaker. So I went up to my colleagues and I whispered this technique to him that I used to use with the adults when they were scared of rock climbing, just this visualization technique. And they got in a truck, dead confident, drove on a chicane, lifted up a pallet, put it down, reversed back out and passed their forklift truck test. Hey, we were all doing well that day. 12 months later, the guy who taught me to drive the forklift truck comes to see me in the workplace and says, Chris, do you remember who I am? I'm like, yeah, you're the forklift truck instructor guy. He goes, no. I'm the managing director of that organization. The reason I came down that day is because the instructor was ill. So I thought I'd come down and make sure you guys passed your test. And I always remember you doing a little magic whisper. We call you the magic whisperer because you whispered something to your anxious colleagues and they got in a truck and passed their tests. We talk about you in every team meeting that we have. Anyway, we now have an opportunity to take on extra staff, and we thought of you. We want to get you to be a forklift truck instructor. I was like, wow, this dyslexic kid, I'm doing a little bit better now. I've had speech therapy, so I'm talking okay. This great opportunity comes up. And then, Tim, you won't believe this. They said to me, the course to be a forklift truck instructor is £3,000. I was like, what? I'm on £2 or £3 an hour. I'm eating beans and toast from a tea. I got £30 in my bank account. I thought this was a con. And he read that on my face and said, no, we're going to pay for your course. We're going to support you. We're going to mentor you. We can see something special in you. So, Tim, I think success for me comes from following your passion and then taking any lucky opportunities. It's a bit like musicians, isn't it? You get passionate about music, and then when a gig comes up, you just go for it, don't you? And hopefully that creates your success.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think I've heard it called messy action a few times, and that's the thing. I mean, you got to say yes to the gig and then figure it out. Otherwise,
Definitely, yes.
You'll never be perfect before you would go up to the gig, right? Yeah, wow, what an amazing story. So like, and I mean, it's so inspirational because I mean, even I mean, I've had some issues with confidence and feeling like I'm not good enough and all that stuff, and so having some sort of I don't know, label, which are terrible, would really, really, really hit you hard, I imagine. And I mean, for you to take that label and just flip it around and create some success out of it is amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you. Do you know what? It's all about taking those opportunities, because I remember at the time thinking, I'm not going to pass that forklift truck instructor test. And once I passed the test, I was like, I'm not going to be successful in this career. And I always had these doubts, this negative self-talk. I had massive amounts of imposter syndrome, but you really need to drop that. You need to leave it at the door and just crack on with your life and just go through it with a positive mindset.
Yeah, and along the route to success, every once in a while we're going to hit a roadblock. We're going to have a bad note, and so I'm wondering, can you share, something that didn't go quite as well as you expected it to on that route, and how we can, either avoid it or recover from it?
I got like hundreds of examples of me having a bad note. It happens to me every single month, every single week, every single day. I remember when I got that forklift truck instructor course, and part of the job was to become an MVQ assessor. So we used to go into warehouses and assess people at like a level 2 qualification, which is like GCSEs, that you can't, the 14 to 15 to 16-year-olds, that level of qualification. And I remember having to write reports, and because I was dyslexic, I couldn't write, I couldn't spell like these very long, complicated 7-letter words. So one of the common misspelled words in the world is separate, because people either spell it separate or seperate. So people spell it one way or the other. And I struggled spelling loads of words, including that one. I thought, like, how can I learn how to spell this word? At high school, your teachers used to tell you to write out words like 100, 200, 300 times, but that never worked for me, because when you're dyslexic, you see the word and the letters all kind of mix up and spread around and do a little dance, and you just really can't make any sense of it. So instead, I imagined being on an aeroplane. And I imagined being on this really fast airplane flying through the sky. And as I'm stood next to the door opens and the wind blasts inside the airplane, making my eyes water, struggling to breathe. My hair was blowing in the wind. And as I felt this wind blasting through the airplane, I jump out and I start plummeting and falling towards the earth, going 100 miles an hour. And as I'm falling towards the earth, I can see these small clouds getting bigger and bigger and bigger the closer I come to the planet. But then I pull my parachute and I gently and softly fall all the way to the floor. And the reason I remember the parachute is because separate is spelled separate, para for parachute. So what I've always learned in life is you can't do something one way, you can't learn something, or you can't complete a particular skill. Try doing it a different way. There's loads of little tips, there's loads of little shortcuts, there's new ways, new perspectives to do different things.
Wow. Okay. That's amazing. So you basically did a word association then?
Yeah, word association, but it's all about, don't think that you have to go from A to B the way everyone goes from A to B. I remember being at high school and being really into drama. I always wanted to be an actor when I was young. Like this kid who couldn't speak wanting to be an actor. I'm dyslexic because I couldn't read half the scripts. And I remember my drama shooter asking me to read out this line, and there's a word in the line that I couldn't say, and she knew I was dyslexic and had the list. And she said, Chris, all you need to do is find a different word that you can say that's got the same meaning. You don't have to say the same word. There's lots of different ways to achieve the same outcome or the same goal. So find the best way for you to be successful.
Love it. That's great advice. Now, okay, when we're trying to achieve success, it's going to take some practice. And, I used to say practice makes perfect. And now I say practice makes progress. Because the closer you get to perfection, the more you realize you don't know. And that's definitely apparent in music. I mean, the better you get, the more you realize, wow, I'm really just a beginner. So now I'm wondering, for you in your life, in your business, what does practice makes progress mean to you?
It's so important, that line. Like, for me, I always say practice creates perfection. The more you practice something, the better you become at it, and it becomes a subconscious thing after a lot of practice. It's like playing an instrument, isn't it? You get a guitar for the first time, and you're trying to find a chord, you're trying to read the notes, you're trying to hear the song in your head, and you get it wrong and wrong and wrong. You feed it, your fingers start bleeding, don't they? You throw the guitar on the floor, you rip up the music book. But after practicing for a while, you're jamming all these different songs out. You can hear a song and you can play it without actually having to read the music notes. Life is just like learning a musical instrument. One of the things I do, as well as the interview coaching, is hypnotherapy. So I help people overcome fears, anxieties, and phobias. So I cure people with lifelong phobias of spiders, as an example. But the difference between doing a phobia session on spiders and public speaking or job interviews is that you also have to practice your speech or your interview answers. So the more you rehearse your speech or your interview answers, the more you practice it, the more you change your stories or create a hook at the beginning or add a great summary, the more skilled you become at communicating. And that also reinforces your confidence, because you get asked a question in a meeting or you're out in the pub with your friends and someone talks to you. Because you practice communication, you then become a greater communicator in all areas of your lives. So for me, the more you practice something, the better you become at that one individual task. But what you'll also find is that creates confidence within you, and that confidence will spread to different areas of your life.
Wow. Wow, that's a very good point too. Yeah, the practice makes the perfect, which creates confidence, which allows you to work on another skill and get better at that too. So would you say the best thing to do would be to, try to get something good at something that's easy to get good at first?
Yeah, well, it's really important as well to be passionate about the thing that you want to get good at. So, if you want to be a great communicator, you might go to improv classes, public speaking, you might even get a coach. If you want to be a great musician, you might go watch loads of gigs, watch YouTube videos, play an instrument, learn how to read music. When you're passionate about something, the practice isn't hard, it's fun because you're interested in that particular thing. And if you're learning an instrument as an example, you start with something simple in it, like learning a particular set of chords, and you master that, and then you learn the tricky chords. Or if you're a public speaker, you might learn how to have better pace or how to use a hook. And then once you master that, you learn how to have a deeper structure to influence the audience. So if you can break down the overall thing you want to achieve or you want to master into small segments and master each of them individually, it's like a compound effect. You get better and better and better, quicker and quicker and quicker.
Yeah. So quick question for you then. Like, of all of the skills that you could have to be successful in a business, in a home business, what do you think would be the one that would be most important to practice?
Embracing failure. You're gonna fail so much in business, aren't you? Just think, like, on a simple level. Now most of us are doing like virtual businesses. Your internet fails and most people panic, but if you remain calm, then you can deal with that situation quite confidently. If you've got your own business, you're probably good at that particular product. So for me, as an interview coach and good at teaching people how to pass job interviews, as I was a musician teacher, I'd be good at playing that instrument. Or if I was selling, I don't know, bikes or clothes on the web, I'd be good at, those products. But you also have to be good at 100 different other tasks. You have to be good at finances. You have to be good at SEO. Don't you? You have to be good at marketing. You have to be good at all these different parts of your business. So you're going to fail so much because it's so rare to find someone who can be excellent at a high number of different activities. You're normally good at one or two, and then you need support with one or two, and then you can't do the final one or two things. So expect failure, embrace it, but reflect and learn from it. That is the key. Be a reflective learner.
That's awesome. As you were saying that, embrace failure, I was thinking about someone, maybe I'm playing a song and I hit a bad note and then I freak out and break the guitar. Like that would make such a good concert, right? I mean, you make a mistake, you move on. You'll almost have to forget it and just move on, especially if you're in a live show. So, I mean, it's probably the same in business. I mean, if you make a mistake and you just freak out, break your guitar or break your computer, well, then that's not going to get you any further. But, like you say, you can reflect on it and go, okay, well, I did hit that bad note that time. So maybe when I go back to my practice, I'll be able to, just practice that part and then get better at it. Right.
Definitely. And one of the problems is when you're doing something like a live gig, so like a concert or public speaking or a job interview or whatever, because you're in the moment, you kind of like get on with it and carry on, and or you break the time, the audience find that like quite hilarious or something. But the opposite, when you're doing business, when you're working for yourself, especially when you're starting up for the first time, if you fail, you'll often procrastinate because you don't want to fail again. Because what we often do when we set up a business is we tell everyone, I just set up this business, I'm going to be really successful, I'll be a millionaire this time next year. So you have this identity of being like this business person, and then you fail, you make some mistakes, and you effectively have this identity that's crumbling around you, and you don't want to tell people, oh, I failed this month, or I didn't make the the targets this week or whatever. So instead we put that fear away by procrastinating and not taking any action.
Don't have to tell me that. That's definitely, I definitely relate to that big time. So now what do you do? So tell me, so I'm imagine I'm in that situation. I've I tried something out, didn't quite work the way I thought it was going to work. And now we're having a conversation and I'm telling you, I'm just having a hard time getting back into it. What do you do?
Yeah, procrastinators have a different mindset to action takers. So procrastinators have a different mindset to action takers. So procrastinators overthink everything. So imagine, Tim, that I don't know, you wanted to go to the gym to lose some weight or to do some exercise and to get healthy, and you start procrastinating. What procrastinators do is go, right, the gym's 3 miles away. So am I going to walk? Am I going to get the bus? Am I going to get a car? Oh, I need my gym kit. So where did I put my gym kit? It might be in the washing machine, or it might be in my drawers. Or actually, maybe I'll do swimming. So that means I need to get my swimming trunks. Do you know what? I think you need money for the lockers as well. So do I need to go and find that money? So they create all these small chunks, all these pieces of action that they have to take. And it becomes really overwhelming. So even then you just go, oh, I can't be bothered. I'll just do that tomorrow night. It's the same with business, isn't it? Like, your goal might be to get 5 more customers, and you're thinking, oh, I'm going to have to write some blog posts or do some Google ads or do some cold calling. And then I got to think about the script or the sales pitch. And then I got to like make sure I've got enough products to sell to these people. And you start thinking. And it's just overwhelming. It's such hard work, where action takers don't do that. An action taker will go, I'm going to the gym. It's 6 o'clock. I'm setting off now. They have like 3 steps. I need 5 more clients. I'll ring them and do a sales pitch. 3 simple steps. And that's the difference. Procrastinators overthink, where action takers make it simple.
Yeah, exactly. And make it simple. I think that's probably the key there. So that if you are in that position where your mind's going on to, all the things you have to do, maybe just what is one quick thing that you can do in the next 2 minutes that's going to have some sort of impact. And I find that momentum is kind of key, right? Once you start to create that momentum, things start to move. So even if you can just knock off a small thing, that's why I do like lists, and I do like to-do lists, because then you can just go to that list, go, what's the easiest thing I can do right now? Just do it. Put the check mark next to it, and then now you've got a little bit of momentum, right?
Yeah, I mean, momentum creates motivation. The more you move, the more motivated you become. People, I've wrote a couple of books, and people are always like, how do you write a book? I just say to them, write. That's all you need to do, is to start writing. How do you draw a picture? You start drawing. How do you run a marathon? You start running. How do you learn an instrument? You start playing. So always just take action.
Yeah. So speaking of instruments, what instruments do you use, or what tools, I guess, do you use in your business to get success?
It's all about the questions, because I generally work with people to support them in their, their life, their careers, or their business adventures. It's all about the right question. So Tim, just imagine I'm your dad, you're my son, and you and you come home from a weekend away with the Scouts or something like that. I might say, how was your weekend? And that's an open question that allows you to say, it was really good, or it was really bad. Where I can ask a specific direct question to get you to answer in a certain way. So I might say to you, Tim, what was the best thing about your weekend? So now you have to find the best thing. So we call these empowering questions, to get people to think about things in a certain way. So for me, my instrument is the questioning skills to help people to take action.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Questions are absolutely key, and especially in sales, because how do you know what a person needs and wants? And how do you know if they're even a good client for you unless you ask them, right? And I think that's the problem, is a lot of people tend to make a bunch of statements instead of actually asking questions. So thank you very much for that. Now, the next question I have for you is, like, where did you learn all this stuff? Like, I would say learning from the best, because, we don't necessarily need to have coaches, but having a coach, having someone to help you learn is always a good thing. I remember one of the people that helped me learn guitar in the beginning, I didn't really hire any coaches. What happened is that a few of my friends were very, very good musicians, and I would just sit there and learn from them. And luckily enough, they were kind enough to use some really good words for me. I remember when I was first starting to play something, I would play it, they would play it, and then I would play it, and it was nowhere near the same thing, but I was getting the gist of it, right? And I remember one of my mentors, he would say, yep, that works. I'm like, he didn't say it was right. He said it works. and that really did motivate me, because I went, okay, he knows what I'm trying to play. That's fantastic. And it motivated me to keep going. And so I'm wondering, in your business, do you believe in hiring coaches? Do you believe in things like masterminds? Like, what do you do to get inspiration and to learn from others.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of like mentors and coaches and stuff like that. But it's like you said then, Tim, it doesn't always have to be like a paid professional coach where they're charging, $150 an hour. Like, have you ever played a song and that song just every time you listen to it gets you motivated, doesn't it? It's one of those upbeat songs you're like, yeah, like now I listen to this, like I want to go do something. You got a song like that, like wake up and play that song to get into that energy. If you want to if you want to build a business, like watch a film about someone being successful and building that business, because you get inspired by that person. So you can have like mentors coming, like books, can't they, films, music, all those sort of things. But really, you do want some physical mentors sometimes, because a physical mentor, a physical coach will ask you those empowering questions. And these physical people can be your friends or your colleagues or your managers or whatever. But you need to pick certain people, because you get a couple of categories there. You have people who will reassure you. So you got people saying, you're doing great, you're doing well, keep going, you're doing good. And you do need that in your life. You do need someone to be like, God, you're doing really well. I'm really impressed. I'm inspired by you, because that motivates you as well. But you also need a coach who will challenge you, who will really pick apart the thing that you're doing. Because if you don't reflect on what you're doing, you might make a lot of mistakes. I remember a couple of years ago, Tim, that by the way, I'm a big theatre fan. I told you before that I wanted to be an actor, and I kind of don't want to do that anymore, but I've always loved going to the theatre and interested in the theatre. So I thought, what should I do? I'll write my own play. I'll write actually and direct my own play. So 2 years ago, I written and directed my own play and put it on a local fringe festival. And I got 2 friends who are actors, and I got them to come round and to read the script, and I wanted them to perform in the play. And I was dead excited. Like, I've been into the theatre the whole life. I wrote this play. It's a bit of a dream. And these 2 people have just acted out my play. So I'm thinking, great. I can't wait for them to say, Chris, this is amazing. I can't believe you created this masterpiece. This is going to be a worldwide success. I was really excited to hear this positive feedback. And both of them went, I like the idea, but the characters haven't got any identities. The message is kind of lost in all those scenes. These 2 scenes don't really link together. And they criticize that play. And at first I was like, oh my God, I can't believe how much these people have ripped the play apart. But really, that allowed me to rebuild it from the foundation and just take this random idea and make it into something a little bit more special. So you do need people who are going to challenge you, get you to reflect, and sometimes criticize you, but often in an encouraging way.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Yeah, you need those. I think cheerleaders is a word that I've used before too. People that are just gonna, and I think that's probably a major issue, I would say, or a problem or a challenge in most people's lives, is that they tend to surround themselves with more cheerleader or more supportive type friends that will basically just say, oh, it's okay, don't worry about it, and you're fine the way you are type friends, which is great. However, you're never going to really grow that way. They're always going to make you feel comfortable in wherever you are, which like I say is great. However, like you say, you're going to need a few of these really uncomfortable friends as well that are going to like call you out when you're not doing what you said you were going to do. And I mean, those friends are really uncomfortable. And I mean, if you can't handle them in your regular life, then maybe hiring one is a better idea,
definitely.
right? Yeah,
definitely. And you always, the end point is that you reflect on everything, don't you? So you reflect on your perspective, the other people's perspective, the challenging comments and questions, and then you make a decision. So as an example, when Queen was getting quite big, Queen the band was getting quite big, their manager listened to Bohemian Rhapsody for the first time, and it was like, no, this shouldn't even be on the album. It's too long. No radio station's going to play this. And then Freddie Mercury and Queen was kind of like, we heard your opinion, but we don't really care about it. We're gonna put that out there anyway, and took action to get that played on BBC Radio 1. And then it became one of the most successful songs in the world. So sometimes people's opinions and critiques are perfect, and you want to take all that on board. Sometimes you kind of want to ignore it because it's not aligned with your values and your goals. And sometimes you have that mixture, don't you? You make a couple of changes based on people's opinions.
Yeah, well, I mean, the way I see that is that when someone criticizes you or maybe says, this isn't going to work, it challenges your opinion of it and your belief of it and your passion for it. So, you may end up walking out of that and going like, yeah, they're right. and recognizing. But you also might come out of it like Queen did and go, no, this is definitely, I believe in this. And so it just makes you even stronger with your belief when someone criticizes you, but in your soul that this is something that needs to be out there, right?
Definitely. And you can kind of use that critique as well as like a bit of a springboard. So like you kind of go back to my childhood when I was dyslexic and, I had no qualifications. I had a lisp as well when I was in primary school and early years in high school. If I said to someone I wanted to be a hypnotherapist and to release a couple of books, they would have been laughing at me, wouldn't they? Because, a hypnotherapist, you had to talk really slowly and have great diction and all this sort of stuff. And to write a book, you have to, obviously, you need to have a grasp of English. So people would no way believe that I was going to do this with my life. But I think one of the reasons why I do this is because I kind of want to prove to myself that I can do these things because I did struggle early on. So I think that created some motivation in me, and my work ethic came from like being not very good academically as well. So you can turn your negatives into positives.
Totally. So Chris, it's time for your guest solo. So tell me what's exciting in your business right now.
Well, I'm really excited because I just released my new book, which is What is Your Interview Identity? COVID came, lockdown came, and I thought, what can I do? And I started reading all these research papers on job interviews. And I found after reading like 100 research papers that they're all designed to help the employer to recruit a high-performing interview team. So I got the research and I flipped it on its head and I made it suitable for the applicant. So how can the applicant use this academic advice to pass job interviews? So I created that into the What is Your Interview Identity book.
Love it. So where do we find this book?
Any bookshop, obviously Amazon and the rest of them, but yeah, it's online. It came out last month in September, so it's literally just been launched in the last couple of weeks.
Nice. So what's it called again?
What is Your Interview Identity?
What is your interview identity? Awesome. And do you have a website that we can go to as well?
Yeah, so you can get the book on the website as well, which is employmentking.co.uk. So that's employmentking.co.uk.
Chris, thank you so much for rocking out with me today. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Thanks, Tim. It's been great.
Awesome. And to the listeners, make sure you subscribe, you rate, and you comment. And we'll see you next time on the Work at Home Rockstar podcast.